So welcome to 3 Secrets to Better Online Presentations. And I am happy to bring this to you today because I truly believe that it's not money that makes the world go round, although a lovely song from a musical, it's communication. And at Kindler and Company, we have a purpose. Our purpose is to inspire, to educate, and to empower leaders to create a better world through improved communication. And fundamentally, we do this by helping leaders communicate with clarity. That's what we focus on. That's what I focus on. So today, I want to show you 3 secrets that are going to help you present even the most complex content easily and confidently, whether you're online or in person. And we will get back to in person someday. Although Donnie, I know you are a teacher. I'm just giving my hats off to you, my friend, and thank you for your service and being a frontline worker. And if I've missed anybody else that's out there, my hat is off to all of you and my sincere appreciation. So my promise to you today is to show you a number of things. And my goal is that if you stay till the very, very end, not only do I want you to download the ebook, but I do want to give away a free coaching session. And for those of you that have worked with me in the past, you know that coaching is a pretty wonderful, magical experience. And I don't mean that I bring out a top hat and bunnies and do magic spells, but there is transformation that happens when we get a chance to work together. So I'm going to give away one lucky person, one free coaching session. And today is going to be a little different because today I'm going to show you not just what you can do to present online with impact, but also how you can present online with impact. But we only have 45 to 50 minutes once we get started. So I'm going to go through things fairly briskly. There's going to be time at the end for questions. I'm going to encourage you to use the Zoom group chat. In fact, just to know that you are out there and that I can see your faces. I love that many of you have your cameras on, which I highly encourage, especially in this online world. I understand that many of you are going to be eating right now. It's lunchtime, so that's fine. You can put the camera off, take a bite, put the camera on, do a slow, small chew or whatever you need to do. But I want to encourage you to put your camera on and take in what we're going to be covering here today. Now, speaking of taking it in, I've got a few rules. Wow, some of the names that are popping up, I'm seeing some of my past clients that I'm just thrilled to see. Jeff, good to see you. Gabby, lovely to see you. Welcome. We're just diving in. And as I was saying, please use the chat. Introduce yourself, introduce each other. This is an opportunity for some incredible experts in different fields to have a chance to connect. So let me share with you a few rules around what we're covering off today. So first of all, as I've already encouraged, I want you to share. I want you to share your ideas, share your thoughts, share your names, share who you are, and please feel free to use this as a networking opportunity. Drop your LinkedIn in there. I'm good. This is about you getting as much as you can from this webinar as possible. So share. The second is I want you to focus. So here's the thing. These things, they've been called before weapons of mass distraction. And we now, unfortunately, are using them 24/7 to communicate for the most part, or 9 to 5 or 7 till 8 if you're like some people. So we need to be able to switch off those notifications. So please do put the Facebook away for now and other notifications that may get in the way. So focus, unlearn. This is going to sound like an odd one, but what I really want you to do is to take your expectations of what we need to do when we present and just put it to the side. Put it on a shelf for a moment and leave it there. I'm not saying to abandon it, but you need to create some space to take in some new ideas and new techniques, which I'm going to share with you in just a few moments. Be bold. Be bold. We can't change the world through our communication unless we take chances and step forward and be bold. I know many of you are bold presenters, bold communicators, and bold thinkers. And so I'm going to encourage you to be bold today and share. If you've got an idea or a question, step forward. Let's hear it. And most importantly, I got to tell you, for those of you that have worked with me in the past, you know I like to have fun. So we're going to have a little bit of fun today. I want to encourage you to engage with each other and engage with me as well. Are you guys ready? Give me a yes or a visual thumbs up, either on the chat or visually here. Love it, love it. Or you can do this if you want. I like this. I'll take one of these. Awesome, wonderful. Okay, so welcome. Thank you, Suzette. Lovely thumbs up. I appreciate it. Let me tell you a little bit about who I am. And for those of you that know me, and some of you have known me a very long time, Donnie, I will say that I've done a lot of things right, and I'll start with that. And so I've had the privilege of being a TEDx speaker. I've had the privilege of working with Singularity University, with faculty from around the world. I've become a certification specialist or a coach, helping certify speakers from Singularity all over the world. I've coached dozens and dozens of TED speakers, and I've had the privilege of volunteering with the United Way. I've coached specialists and scientists. I've worked with the Children's Aid Foundation, TED Global, YPO, scientists, academics. I'm really lucky to have had the privilege of doing all of that. But I've also done some mistakes. I've done some things that weren't so hot. This is not me, but it pretty well could have been me in 2011, because in 2011, I was miserable. And I'd seen my once very successful communications and events business slowly crumble. And at its peak, we were one of the hot agencies in Toronto and in Canada doing millions and millions in revenue. Some of you knew me back when I was running that agency. And I worked with companies that many of you know, like in the pharmaceutical, financial, packaged goods, retail businesses, producing their national meetings, their events, their retreats. And unfortunately, by 2011, I'm in a lawyer's office and I'm signing the papers dissolving my company. And the reality is, I was miserable then. I was, and I was miserable before the decline of the company. The decline of my business actually mirrored the interest I had in producing the big events that I was doing and the actual work I was doing. My heart just wasn't in it. Actually, only part of my heart was in it. Where my heart lay, and I didn't know this, by the way, but this was probably one of the best things that could have ever happened to me. Susan knows this. She's online here, and I give a big shout out to you. And by the way, I just want to pause. We have people from around the world that have registered, and I think some folks from Australia. We have folks from the US. We have folks all the way from Dubai. So welcome. But I didn't know it, but it was one of the best things that could have happened to me. And I learned the thing that I loved the most about my business, where my heart actually lay, and what I was exceptional at, was helping people communicate and present more effectively. I was very good at presenting and pitching. I pitched for a bunch of you in the past. And my team that I trained up was also very good at it. And so many of my clients would see this and ask for my help. And I provided this coaching service, probably, and I'm laughing, probably the most valuable and profitable service in my former business, to many of my clients free of charge. So after my company closed its doors, I decided to focus just on coaching. And I dove in quickly. I volunteered at the United Way. I was helping a dear friend of mine who was developing their Millennial Speakers Bureau, which had a huge impact on me, getting to work with some talented youth telling stories of change and possibility. And then I got to work at TEDx Toronto, first as a coach, and then I became their head of programming, which also had a huge impact on me. And then I opened my consultancy, Kindler & Company. And I found tremendous success coaching dozens of leaders in marketing, in sales, in science, in technology. And I also helped my friend become a part of a team that brought Singularity University here to Canada. And I became a curation and coaching partner to the Canadian operations. And eventually, because Singularity Global saw it, I traveled around the world certifying some of the biggest thinkers and brains in the world, helping them. So in doing all of this, the reason I share this is in doing all this, I refined my methodology, which incorporates my years of experience, even back when I was doing work in the agency world, but my time working with TED and Singularity speakers, scientists and academics and sales professionals. So after doing this for 20 years, I came to realize there's one thing that applies to all presentations, whether they're online, in person, no matter how complex. Okay, it's actually three things. There's three things. And the reason I share that, I'm not going to do a Monty Python, actually 7 things. No, 20 things. No, it's 3 things that apply to all presentations, no matter how complex. And I promised 3 secrets to better online presentations. Here we go. I'm going to dive in right now. Here they are. Simplify, transform, and perform. And you're going, well, big whoop, Nick, 3 words, like nicely done. Let me unpack each one of them, and I'm going to share with you tools and techniques that apply to each one. Before I do, let me just explain what I think we all know most people do. This is what most people do when they need to prepare for a presentation, for a talk, or even a meeting. Here's what they do. It's a 4-step process. They open PowerPoint. Second step, they open another PowerPoint. Third step, they combine those 2 PowerPoints. And then number 4, they wing it. They wing it. Now, hands up if you've done this, or give me a yes in the chat. Hands up if you've done this. Be honest. I want you to be bold. Okay, thank you, Graham, for your honesty, and for all of you that have done it as well. By the way, winging it comes from the term in theater where the understudy is waiting in the wings to come in and take the place of the lead actor or a lead actress on stage. They've trained for weeks and weeks to get ready to step forward to take their chance to be on that stage. That has nothing to do with just throwing caution to the wind. So, let me show you the easy way to create presentations, pitches that can be achieved easily and without stress and anxiety. And by the way, I've done this with dozens of keynotes and pitches and presentations that help you stand out and have an impact. So the 3 secrets. Secret number 1, use structure. Secret number 2, embrace storytelling. Secret number 3, think like a performer. And I'm going to walk you through each one of these in more detail. And remember, for those of you that joined late, there's going to be a Q&A session at the tail end. So secret number 1, anything can be simplified and made accessible if you use structure. And I share this because I've worked with some of the biggest brains, and sometimes I pinch myself. I go, how am I working with this brilliant regenerative scientist or this incredible AI specialist? Well, because they're having a hard time communicating and they need help. So simplify with structure is pretty straightforward. And let me just explain in a little bit more detail. Think about how you get dressed every single day. I don't need to go into each of your houses. That would be creepy, but to go in and see that you have a closet or a cupboard where you hang your clothes. And by the way, I happen to know that Lisa must have an awesome cupboard or closet where she hangs her clothes. Go to her Instagram. She is awesome. If that's okay, Lisa, I hope that's all right. But I can tell you what we don't do, and I can tell you what Lisa doesn't do, is she doesn't go to the big pile of clothes in the middle of the floor looking for socks and shirts and skirts or pants or whatever it is. That's not what we do. No. We go to our closets and we have a structure that organizes ourselves. And by the way, the higher up in leadership you go, the less choice you make in your closet. Barack Obama, for example, 1 suit, always chosen for him. He just went to the closet, put it on. And so that's the structure that we use. By the way, this is not my closet, although I'd love to have at least 1 cowboy hat. That would be pretty cool. So structure is what we need. Structure is what we need to simplify our communications. I want to share a story about this. And this is a bridge right near where I live. It's the Bloor Viaduct Bridge. I live just around the corner from it. I run this track or this path 2 or 3 times a week. And about 18 months ago, I was out for a run. And unfortunately, I injured my leg and I was walking home. And I walked under the bridge. And as I was walking home, a guy came forward on a bike, towards me on a bike. And he slowed down and he said, do you mind taking a photo of me? I said, no, that's fine. And he handed me his phone and then he said, can you take a photo of me on my bike riding towards you with the bridge in the background, as many as you can in landscape and in portrait? And you must have seen my facial expression because I was like, what? And he said, can you take a photo of me with me on my bike with the bridge in the background, as many as possible in portrait and in landscape? And I said, sure. Now he turned away and took off all the way around the bend. So I didn't see him anymore. And here I had his smartphone, not a cheap piece of technology. For those of you that know me, you may know that I've got a bit of a mischievous streak. So what I really wanted to do was do a bunch of, like Hulk Hogan-esque poses, but I didn't, because before I knew it, he had turned around and he was coming towards me. So I got down and I went portrait, 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 landscape, landscape, portrait, portrait. I did this for about 20 seconds, and then he arrived and I handed him the phone and I was about to walk away. He kind of grabbed my arm. I was like, what's going on here? He goes, one sec. And he surveyed my work. He looked at the quality of my photos. And then I turned around and started walking away. And he said, thank you. This is great. And I waved. And I was giggling all the way home. But he got exactly what he wanted because he was clear, he was direct, and he had structure. Photos of him on his bike, bridge in the background, portrait and landscape, as many as possible. He said it twice, and he used a structure. So here's what often happens when we develop our own communication, whether it's a presentation or a request. We do a welcome, hey, good to see everybody. We do our credentials, my name is, and here's why I'm here, and this is what I bring to the table. You do an intro, it's really great to see all of you here. It's often fact-driven. I'm going to share with you the statistics around X or Y. And then in the middle, we provide support. So this is where we bring in data or stories, if we're really lucky, and facts. And then quotes, if we're also lucky, because it can become a little more engaging. And then we end up with a close that often has a lack of clarity. It's abrupt, it's signaled, it summarizes the content. Again, if you're really lucky, it provides next steps. So what I want to share with you is a structure that you can use, and it's in the ebook, by the way, that you can use to develop a presentation, a meeting agenda, a call, even a voicemail or an email that allows you to create the right structure to connect every single time. And it's called the communication canvas. It starts with a lean-in, a story, or some sort of arresting information. It could be a statistic, a shocking statistic, or a quote, but ideally it's a story that that is connected to you in some way and connects to your purpose of your talk. Not your life's purpose, although wouldn't that be great, but your purpose, the purpose, why you are there. And by the way, in the work that I do, I have a structure that allows you to go through all of this, including the 3-step purpose practice that allows you to get really, really clear on what it is that you want to say and how you want to say it. So you want to get really clear on your purpose, your what, which is your topic, your how, which is how you're going to the action around that what, and the why, the future, the intention that you're going, or the potential that you're going to leave them with. And all of that gets shaped into one statement, a short statement. So then you build out the rest of your talk, which is an essential message that supports your purpose, support for that essential message. And yes, this is where statistics and data can come in, but also where you can bring stories in. And I'm going to talk more about stories in just a moment. Then you share your MIP, your most important point. There's a saying, and I know there's a bunch of communications experts and marketing experts, and you know what I'm saying. I can see you, David. There's a saying in communications, it's good to see you, which is tell them again, and then tell them what you told them. And that's a model that actually is really important in your communications and in your presentations. So that most important point is likely something that you've built or said, I should say, or shared in your support. So you have to choose which is the most important one. What's the thing that I want to reiterate here? And then you build out your second essential message, your support for your second essential message, again, your MIP, and you can go 3 times all the way through. You could go up to 5. It depends on how lengthy a talk you want to deliver. You might just have one column, one essential message, but it really is a great way to help yourself get clear on what it is that you want to say and how you want to say it. And then at the end, you need a close. Now, I am sharing a version of this. Let me just actually touch on the close. The close is you want to refer to that lean in, right? What happened in that story? Maybe you continue that story, or maybe you revisit another story that links to the story. There's all kinds of ways you can do it. By the way, there's lots of people I've worked with that have told a single narrative story all the way through. It's not easy, but when it's done well, it can be riveting. People want to know what happens, and they're sharing really important content. You're also going to reiterate that purpose and end with a call to action. 40%, I'll try and say that again, 46% of employees rarely leave a meeting knowing what to do next. 46, that means half of your meetings with your teams, they're leaving going, I don't know, maybe or maybe they don't know. So what's the call to action? What do you want them to do? There are other versions of this canvas, by the way, which are for pitches, and there's other versions that for longer meetings where you would even have an exchange and a second close. But I'm not going to go into that right now. I'm happy to address that later. I just want to share a couple of things. I'm going to share as I move towards my second secret. This is Tony Hunt, and some of you may know him. He shared in my latest presentation at a national industry conference, we aced it. This presentation was where I did not get to choose the topic, and to make it tougher, I was assigned a short slot at the end, or just before the open bar reception. He said the communication canvas was vital in my preparation. The second one I want to share with you is from Bernard Lebel, who's a former national director of innovation at Deloitte. And he said that, I'm going to cut to the end, that when we work together, he gets the uncanny ability, or I have the uncanny ability to help a speaker cut through the clutter of cursive knowledge and create a compelling TEDx grade narrative. I love what he said there, the clutter of cursive knowledge. Some nice alliteration. Okay, secret number 2. Secret number 2. Are you guys ready? All right. Give me a thumbs up. I love activity. Excellent. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much. All right. All content can be transformational and engaging if you embrace storytelling techniques. Now, for those of you that are like, I'm a scientist or I'm a salesperson, or that's probably not the right example, but I'm on the left brain thinking side of things, let me explain that it's been proven time and again that stories and the use of emotional language impact the brain of the listener, and they will retain 60 to 70% of the content if it's shared via story. That means simply sharing a list of knowledge is not going to be effective. The brain is a beautiful thing, and the power of storytelling on the human brain is truly remarkable. Let me dive into some neuroscience, which is where I get to nerd out a little bit. I love this. So there's 2 areas of the brain that are activated when we start to hear facts and figures. That's Wernicke's area, where we start to comprehend the language, and Broca's area, where we process the language. And so there's only 2 areas of the brain that are activated when we start going through statistics and information. But when we tell a story, we get 7 areas of the brain activated. So research shows that our brains produce a stress hormone called cortisol during tense moments in a story, which allow us to focus. And other neurological research shows that a happy ending to a story triggers the limbic system, which is our brain's reward center, and it makes us feel more hopeful or optimistic, which is kind of what we all need a little of right now. And a study, and this is probably one of my favorite pieces of content or statistics, there's a study that was published in Brain and Language that showed that when subjects in a lab read a metaphor involving texture, the sensory cortex, which is the area of the brain that perceives texture through touch, became active. So when they heard a metaphor like the singer had a velvet voice or he had rough, leathery hands, the sensory cortex lit up. Whereas when they heard equivalent language like she had a nice voice or he had tough hands, it did not. So we're actually missing out on an opportunity to engage in a very powerful way when we don't use stories. So how do we use stories? Let me share with you the story spine. Meet the story spine. Story spine is not something I invented. The story spine was actually invented by Ken Adams, who's a playwright and a improviser and an actor in 1991. It's a technique that is built from improvisational theater, but popularized by the production company and entertainment company Pixar, which is now owned by Disney. And so here's what it is. You guys ready for the story spine? Yeah? Okay, awesome. Story spine. Once upon a time, there was a character. Pretty simple, right? And every day they had a routine. They did the same thing over and over and over until one day that routine broken. Because of that, there are consequences. And because of that, there were consequences. By the way, you could do this a few times. Because of that, there are consequences. You could go up to 3 or 4 times until finally success or failure. And ever since then, there's a new routine. They have a brand new routine. Now, if we're just going to use Toy Story, because it's one of my favorites, and most of you, I'm assuming, have seen it. By the way, I'll get to the business side of this in just a moment. I'm just going to use Toy Story, so bear with me for a moment. Once upon a time, there was a character, a toy named Woody, and every day, Woody would play with his owner, Andy. And one day, Andy brought a new toy home, Buzz Lightyear. And because of that, Woody got very jealous. And because of that, he left and ran away. And because of that, let me try this again, we're going to add one. Because of that, all of the toys went out to find Woody and bring him home. Until finally, they convinced Woody that Buzz and him could be friends and they could all play with Andy. And ever since then, Andy played with everybody equally. So, by the way, you can also throw in a moral of the story if you want to. Now, here's the question I get all the time. Well, that's really nice, Nick. That's nice. It's a story of a fiction. But every single story can be told this way, whether it's a product launch story or a story about your business or a story about anything to do with your content can be shared or metaphorically applied to your content. Because remember, this story spine is going to be used in your lean-in at the beginning of your communication canvas. And I get asked a lot, what kind of story do I share here? And I always say, share a story that works for you, something you're comfortable with sharing, something that connects with your purpose statement. But I truly believe that the best stories are ones that belong to you. That being said, in many talks I've delivered and keynotes and pitches, I've pulled from wonderful books where I've shared stories about Winston Churchill and the development of radar during the Second World War that helped link to the purpose. So once you've gotten clear on that purpose and you'll want to develop your canvas and you'll want to develop that story spine so that you can connect. And by the way, this story spine can also be used in your support for all of your essential messages as well. It'll help bring those things to life. All right. Dr. Nita Sen is somebody I had a chance to work with recently. She's from the National Institute of Health. And she said, I used to consider myself a good speaker, but I couldn't believe how much Nick helped me focus on my message. He is one of the best coaches I've ever worked with, which is really nice, and I cannot wait to work with him some more. Dr. David Wong, an entrepreneur from Hong Kong, had a huge pitch for his tech company, Booked. And he said the feedback that I gave him helped knock one of the biggest pitches out of the park. He became a better speaker and a better presenter, and he'd welcome an opportunity to work together again. So here's number 3. This is the third. And this is hard for some folks because here we are in this virtual world. But all presentations can have impact if you think like a a performer. And this is, I'm gonna walk you through a few thoughts here. How you look and sound can account to up to 65% of the message that the audience receives. Think about that. You can spend 3 or 4 weeks working on a deck and not plan on rehearsing it, but of course, if you rehearse it, you're going to build up the amount of the message, how much the message that the audience is going to receive. So don't forget about rehearsal. Now, I'm not going to talk about rehearsal. What I am going to talk about is how we show up. And the word status is the word that I use because it comes from improvisational and theater techniques that I apply into the world of coaching and in work. Now, if I were to ask you, what does status mean to you? And I actually am going to ask you. I'm going to ask everybody to drop down in your chat. What does the word status mean to you? Put it in 1 or 2 words if you can. I'm going to pause for a moment and take a sip of water. Hierarchy. Thank you, Lisa. Excellent. Your standing, your personal standing. Thanks, David. Presence. Excellent. Your current state. Your position. Confidence. Okay, your position. The opportunity to present. Interesting. I love, by the way, one of these days in my book, I should do this. I want to take all of these recommendations of thoughts that people have and share them because they're so diverse and they're all applicable. The reason I want you to think about the way you think about status is I want to shift it. I want you to think about, some of you had said this, your position. Some of you said hierarchy, but I want you to think about your physical status. Because the way, if I were to have come on here today and go, hello everybody, welcome to my webinar, and I'm going to share with you the 3 secrets to online presentations. All of a sudden, my status is lower. And what I've done, of course, if you look at the scale of status, low being down here and 1 over here, I was probably down at the 1 or 2. The only thing that would make me lower is if I literally got lower to the ground. So status, and if you see this, the image of this individual who's getting ready for a job interview, it looks like she's low status or lower status on one side and higher status on the other. But we've evolved from walking on all 4s to walking upright and erect, but we're devolving right now as we move into this unfortunate online world where we have to present more and more. And I don't think it's going to change once everyone goes back to work. We're still going to be working virtually. And you can see that our status automatically starts to degrade. So, and it degrades because our shoulders are slumped, we're not making eye contact, our chins are down, our voice changes. There's all kinds of things that change with our body language. So we actually want to do the opposite. We want to stand up or sit straight, have eye contact, chin up slightly, and we want to stand up straight as much as possible. And standing up is important. So the question I want you to ask yourself is, how do I want to show up? How do I want to show up? Because most of you are doing something like this right now. Most of you are doing something like this. And all you need to do is look around at the video. I hope if everyone could just leave their video on for a moment. No shame. This is about being bold. But how you want to show up is really, really important. If you're doing sales, if you're pitching something, if you're wanting to connect, even if you just want to socialize. Hello, Armand. Lovely to see you. And it's late there, or it's early. I can't tell. I think we might have caught Armand in Dubai making dinner. So thank you, Armand. So how we want to show up is really, really important. And we can do some very specific things. Early days of COVID, literally the first week or 2, the New York Times put a great article out and shared these images. So these are from the New York Times. I think it was Tom Ford, the designer, said, how to look great on camera. But actually the tips were bang on. Number 1, your camera should be at your eye line, And if you can't do that, if you don't want to invest in something to level up your monitor or your camera, then just grab some books and elevate. That's all you need to do. That's all you need to do. Grab some books and elevate. Second thing, make sure that you have light behind your camera. Put the light behind your camera because you're going to be able to be seen better. Now, I I don't want to take my camera off the stand, but I've got some studio lighting. I've invested in this. I do this quite a bit. I deliver this content all around globally. I do workshops for hours at a day, hours at a time. So I need to have a different setup. But if you're working from home and it's more for meetings and connecting, get a light behind. And if you can, there's lots of simple kits that you can get on Amazon. I'm happy to share that after the fact. Okay, next thing. If you are going on a lower light, get a piece of paper. This is a really expensive tip. Get a piece of paper and put it underneath. It becomes a reflector. And for those of you that are in film or in production, Jake O'Brien, for example, you know all about reflectors and the power that they have to fill up the light in the space of the speaker. Okay, final video-based tip, which is the 2/3 rule. And I know I've been moving around because this is my stage, but when I'm coaching and I'm working with someone, you'll see that I have 2/3. I've got about an inch of space above me. Again, the camera's right at eye line. And the reason I like to create that space is it creates an opportunity for gesture. I can move around and I can make sure that people see. But the 2/3 rule is being used in video production forever. Use it in your meetings as well. My last tip. You ready for my last tip? I just want to get some reaction. Give me a thumbs up or a yes or awesome. Thank you, Deborah and David and Aaron. Wonderful. Here it is. It's probably my most common piece of feedback when I'm coaching. And those of you that I've coached that are on, you'll know. Okay. Smile. Smile. Here is the Duchenne smile. Guillaume Duchenne was an 18th century neurologist who studied facial expressions. And the reality is that neurology didn't exist in France before Guillaume Duchenne. And he had kind of a dark way of conducting his research. He used patients at mental hospitals as subjects, and he produced various expressions on their faces by stimulating the facial expressions with an electrical current. Now, aside from this macabre research, he also literally classified dozens and dozens of different facial expressions and smiles, including the one named after him, the Duchenne smile. Now, the Duchenne smile is literally the lowering of the eyelid, crow's feet, which kind of happened to me naturally now, raised cheek labial folds, and the raised corners of the mouth. And here's what I'm going to do. I am going to stop sharing for a moment, because then I get to see everybody, and I want everybody to give me a giant Duchenne smile on the count of 3 and hold it for 3. 1, 2, 3. Hold it, hold it. Awesome. And full disclosure, I did a screen grab because this might be my favorite part of the whole webinar. So don't forget to smile. Don't forget to smile. And the Duchenne smile may feel odd, but it works. It works because when you're smiling at others, they're smiling back. As soon as I started putting on that smile, more and more of you, I saw it all the way across with everybody that had their camera on, they were smiling. Okay, let me share with you just in summary the 3 secrets. Secret number 1, use structure. Simplifying structure helps you simplify. Secret 2, embrace storytelling because it has a neurological impact on the human body. And secret 3, think like a performer. This is no longer just where you live. Unfortunately, for now, and in your office when you go back, because we're going to be doing this for a while virtually, this is a performance space. This is your communication space. How do you want to show up? John, I just want to talk a little bit about John. John is an entrepreneurial ophthalmologist who I've been working with recently, and I helped transition him from kind of thinker or speaker to thought leader. And he simplified using the canvas. He transformed his content using storytelling, and then he performed, he acted and thought like a performer because he used gesture and status and vocal techniques and facial expression, all stuff that we cover in our programs. And he said to me, I caught this on video, it was wonderful. He said, before the meeting, Nick, I used the framework just like you said, and after I presented, the client said, I've never heard anyone explain something so complicated so clearly, so it worked like a gem. Remember the guy that stopped me on the bike? How many times have we experienced asking somebody for a photo and only discovering that our Aunt Mary was like this, or my eyes are like this? Or how many times have you not received the report that you want on time? Or you've received incomplete work, or maybe it's more mundane. You've received the wrong food order. We are hardwired to communicate in a particular way because we've been educated to communicate in a particular way. And here's the ultimate secret. We have to change how we communicate, or we have to change our expectations of others. We have to change how we communicate, or we have to change our expectations of others. I share this because the path to impact, the path to communicating with impact is just what I've shared with you. You simplify using structure, you transform using storytelling, and that will create access to the content. You perform, you think like a performer and use different performance techniques. It'll help generate understanding and, of course, connection. And if you do all of that, create access, understanding, and connection, you will have impact in your communications, no matter where you are, whether you are online or in person, whether you're on the phone or you are on a street corner or on a path in the valley. What I've shared with you today are the basics. They're the process that I work with every single speaker. Of course, I go into a lot more detail when I have more than an hour. But I'm going to ask all of you, I want to share this. We've covered simplifying with structure, the communication canvas, the neuroscience of storytelling. I shared the story spine, a little bit on body language and status, and of course, setting up your space. And my question to all of you, and I've asked you to be engaged, and I'm going to ask you to share your questions, and I'm going to answer them in just a moment. And would you agree that it's been time well spent so far? Okay, and have I earned the right to share with you an offer, a program that I've developed that could help you become a better speaker? Okay, thank you. So I'm going to share with you, and remember, after the Q&A, Jake is going to do a draw. We're going to have one free coaching session available to one lucky winner. Okay, and don't forget, you can also get the ebook that Jake, if you don't mind resharing that link, that would be awesome. Thank you, Jake. Okay, so the program is not for everybody, I'll be honest. It's for what I call ingenious experts. And this for me was a term that as I was writing my book, it dawned on me that that's what these individuals are. And let me just unpack it briefly. An expert, you know what an expert is. It's a subject matter expert. It's somebody who's got deep knowledge around an area. And there's so many of them out there that they can't communicate their vast knowledge effectively. But the other part, so that's important, but the other part is the ingenious part. And what I mean by ingenious is they want to make a mark. They want to make a change or do something differently in their industry. They want to change how things are done at their organization. They want to have their organization stand out in a crowd. So that's why I've created the program, and it's for ingenious experts. And it's called the 8-week Communicate with Impact Challenge. Now, I should have done this, but I didn't. I totally forgot in all my business. I just finished the last 8-week program with 6 people that participated over 8 weeks, and it was awesome. And what I can do is next time I do one of these, I'm going to bring 1 or 2 of them on. Had such positive feedback. They not only did they get a lot from the program, they got a lot from each other, and that's kind of the idea here. Let me walk you through what is included in this program. And bear with me, this is where I have to go into a little bit of a sales spiel. So bear with me, folks. I'm going to share some numbers and all of the content. The communication canvas and structure is valued at $1,200. I go through that in a workshop, and I go into in a lot more detail. The 3-step purpose practice, which is part of its own course, but I integrate it in here. Storytelling techniques, much more than what I covered today. Performance techniques, much more than what I covered today. And then what's wonderful about the program, and one of the key features, is this group coaching, where we get to work together as a cohort and rehearse together as a cohort. Now, don't run away because this is not where I'm going to stay. I'm just giving you the number here that if I were to add it all together, this is the price. It would be just under $9,000. Here are just a few people that have participated. In fact, I'm going to do a shout out to one person who's participated in a similar program. And Deborah, you know who I am. I'm just going to give you a thumbs up. Deborah was in a retreat version of this program a few years ago, and I so love seeing you on this webinar. So thank you for joining. This is Dr. David Hunter. He's at Boston Children's Hospital. He works to help solve the problem of children with amblyopia, which is a vision development disorder. And he invented the Blink scanner, which won him a Fast Company award. Dr. Afsana Alavi, who I think Deborah might have been in the same program as you, Dr. Alavi has now moved to the Mayo Clinic. And I've had the privilege of coaching her and working with her, and she's been part of almost every program that I've ever developed, and has developed and delivered countless research presentations around the world. And then Floyd Marinescu is someone I had a chance to work with. He's the CEO of C4, and he was not an economist and not an expert in finance. He ran a very successful runs a very successful organization, but he was passionate about embracing the adoption of basic income, which is actually something we're all doing right now, or Canada is embracing right now, almost as a vital survival. But he actually developed a series of talks, went on television, and then eventually did his own TED Talk and has his own organization, CEOs for Basic Income. So that's Floyd Marinescu. So I had a couple of choices today, which was go as cheap as possible and try and sell as many of my program as possible. But I wanted to make sure that I could devote the right resources. So I went to the second option, which means it's a little higher in investment, but I get to be part of the program all the way along. This is Dr. Molly Shoykit. I had the privilege of coaching her at her TED Talk a number of years ago, and she's the former chief scientist. She just won yet another award, and her organization and her research has been winning. I think she's won 2 or 3 awards this year. And so I've had a chance to work with Molly and different people in her faculty over the years. So just in summary, you have the 3-step purpose practice, the communication canvas, the storytelling techniques, performance techniques, the group coaching, all valued at $8,950. I'm going to include 3 one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, which is valued at $1,200. And I'm going to include 1 year of the Communicate with Impact community, which I launched. And so that is just under $200. And altogether, that's a value of just under $10,500. But I'm not going to share that price. That's not what it is. I ask you, if all I did was help you become a more charismatic speaker, would it be worth it? If all I did was speed up your time to create compelling presentations, would it be worth it? If all I did was help you become a better communicator, online or in person, so that every time you spoke, you delivered with impact and got the results you wanted, would it be worth it? So here's the total value that I'm going to be sharing, $19.95, and it is US because I have global clients all across the world, and it's $19.95 US. And you can access the program page, programs.kindleringcompany.com. I am going to throw one more thing in because I think it's important to somebody mentioned this, and Lisa, I think it might have been you because I see the chat going, so bear with me for a moment. What I want to do is I want to throw in, hold on a second, let me do this. Let me throw in the mindset workshop, which is how do we get ourselves ready? How do we, many of us feel like imposters. We feel like we're not worthy, we're not, we have all these ideas. Why are we the ones that get a chance to share? The mindset workshop as part of the program will help you lose that imposter syndrome and get confident in your content, no matter what it is. And so I'm going to keep all the numbers as it was for $19.95 US. You can sign up. We're going to launch it in January. And by the way, for those of you that haven't worked with me, I feel it's confident that I feel that you need to feel confident with who I am. So halfway through the program, if you're not interested and you're not getting what you want out of it, no problem. We'll drop back. We'll give you your money back. So you've got a 30-day guarantee. Okay, so here's the actual value of the overall program, over $11,000, but I'm keeping it at $19.95. I've done all the talking. We have 10 minutes left. What I want to do is answer any questions. It can be about the program. It can be about the content. I don't care. I just want to hear from you and your questions. So what questions do we have, Jake?
So the one question we have from the chat is from Lisa, which says, Nick, I have the worst stage fright. Me too. I managed to hide it quite well on the outside, but do you have any tips for reducing stress when presenting?
Yeah, and Lisa, you're not alone, okay? Because, thank you for being bold, by the way. That was one of our house rules, so thumbs up to you. So you're not alone. And yeah, there's a few things. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do or ask you to think about is why you may feel that way. And we can't go into that right now. I'm not gonna go into a one-on-one coaching session right now. But if you start to actually understand why you feel that you're nervous or why you get that way, you're going to. I know this sounds basic, but you're going to be able to put it somewhere and look at it and examine it. So you need to examine the reason why. Fundamentally, though, you may not be able to do that. You may not have the time. You may not be able to identify it easily. So the basic thing that I would do for you, for anybody that's nervous, is do something called breathe. And the breathing is something that it calms anybody when they're nervous, but it's not just breathing like, because that's just going to make you more nervous. It's in through the nose and out through the mouth, and it's slow. So if you're going on and presenting something before you press the camera on, 2, 3, and 2, 3. And for those yoga enthusiasts out there, yeah, there's a little bit of that in this, but you do need to be standing or sitting straight in order for that breathing to actually take effect. What happens, a couple of things, it slows your thinking down, it slows your heart down in a good way, and it slows your whole mode of approach to doing things. So deep breathing is one thing. And in the mindset workshop, I touch on a method that I use every single time I present. So Lisa, I'm happy to connect with you after. I just want to answer a few more questions and touch on that. Because I have time, by the way, from 1 o'clock on, I can stick around for another 15, 20 minutes if people want to stick around. So Lisa, I can stick around after. Any other questions about the program, about the content?
Anyone would like to unmute and maybe ask themselves a question? Or I could read off a couple from the chat. Oh, Aaron, do we have a question from Aaron?
Hey, Aaron, do you mind going on video and audio and asking your question live?
Sure. Yep. I think.
Thanks,
am I live?
You are.
Okay. Thanks, Nick. This has been great. So I seem to be okay with rehearsed presentations, but it's the rapid Q&A afterwards where I get flooded and have a hard time getting to the good stuff on the spot.
Yeah. Well, so let me dive into a couple of things here. The communication canvas that I mentioned, great question, by the way, Aaron. Communication canvas that I shared earlier, there's another version of it for questions and the second close that I may have mentioned. In that questions, I call it exchange because, and to be honest, Aaron, I used to hate the questions after the pitch. And, Jeff, I used to pitch to Jeff. I used to pitch to Susan. I used to pitch to, they don't know this, but I was terrified of the questions, terrified. They're clients and former clients that I worked with. But here's the thing that I did is I would brainstorm all questions, as many, and I do it with my team. I do it on my own. I did it today. What questions might come up so that I can be prepared? And yeah, I write them down. I write down not just the question, but how I might answer it. So that's the first thing. so that it becomes almost as rehearsed as the talk itself. The second thing, and this is equally important, is that purpose. So you've prepared. So your purpose statement, it is going to help you answer the questions, because even though they may not be directly related, they're all connected to the purpose of your talk. So if you're really clear on your purpose and that call to action, you can bring that back to your purpose. Your answer can always link to your purpose. But those are my two things. Make sure that you're really, really solid on your purpose. Make sure that you're really, really solid on brainstorming the questions and answering those questions. Hope that helps.
Great. So it looks like we have time for one more question before I'll get the randomizer going for the prize. And then after, Nick, if you say you're still good to take a couple questions, then we can definitely continue. This should be a quick question. So Chris says, I am a part of a group moving curricular content to online. When we're training our presenters or instructors for online, should they be sitting or standing like you are?
Oh, Chris. So the question is, should in general, it sounds like, as we're educating, should we be standing? If at all possible. Again, not knowing how long you need to stand for, but if at all possible, the rules of online education, at least in the corporate setting, apply the same vision online as they do in real life, which is, if I'm running a workshop, I'm not pulling up a chair at the front and sitting there and talking. I'm standing. And so if at all possible, find a way to elevate your desk, elevate your content or your camera, and stand up as much as possible. So, so that is what, I hope that answers the question. Hey, we are running out of time, and two things. I want Jake to pull the name from the randomizer. We put all the names of the people online. So who has won, Jake?
Great. So let's press the button in 3, 2, 1. Let's get a drum roll. Suzette Chapman, you are the lucky winner.
Oh!
We'll be in contact with you by the end of today, and hopefully set up a time and a place, probably Zoom, and we'll be in contact. So congratulations.
Oh, that's excellent.
So.
Thank you. I turned on my camera, but I'm eating my sandwich.
Nice. Bon appetit. Congrats, Suzette. I'm looking forward to working with you. And I want to stick around you know, because I've raced through stuff, but I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Jake for his help today. You did an awesome job. Thank you, Jake. And I also want to just say thank you to all of you for being here today. And I'll stick around for a few minutes if people have questions or just want to say hello, because there are some folks that have been on and I want to say hello to. So thank you and have a great day. See you soon.